Have you ever been judged by your appearance? What if someone made assumptions about you just because of the color of your skin? Now imagine being humiliated for it in front of a crowd, unaware that you're holding a secret far greater than they could ever imagine. Buckle up for a story that's about to take a wild turn, because when the tables are turned, those in power aren't always the ones who stay on top. It all began on a sunny afternoon at a lavish high-end hotel in the heart of the city. Guests arrived in sleek, expensive cars, dressed in designer clothes, and greeted with open arms by the staff. Among them was Danielle, a seemingly unimportant janitor quietly moving through the hotel, her eyes scanning every inch of the space. She was unnoticed by many and practically invisible to most. But Danielle was no ordinary janitor. She was an undercover FBI agent working on a covert operation to gather crucial intel on a suspected criminal network that frequently held secret meetings in this very hotel. But no one knew that, not even the hotel staff. That's when things took a shocking turn. The hotel manager, a middle-aged white man named Mr. Griffin, had a reputation for being strict, but no one knew just how deep his biases ran. As Danielle cleaned near the hotel lobby, she noticed him glaring at her. His eyes were cold and sharp, full of disdain. What happens when someone lets their prejudice cloud their judgment? Would Mr. Griffin realize who Danielle really was before it was too late? As Danielle carried out her duties, whispers began to circulate. "Who let her in here?" someone muttered under their breath. Danielle could feel the weight of the stares, her heart pounding, but she kept her cool. She'd been through worse in her FBI training. But then Mr. Griffin marched up to her, his voice dripping with condescension. "What do you think you're doing here? You don't belong in a place like this, do you? Do you think Mr. Griffin would have treated her this way if she didn't appear to be an ordinary black woman working as a janitor? Why do some people think they can judge others based on their looks alone?" Danielle remained calm. She was trained for high-pressure situations, but this wasn't part of the mission. She had to stay focused. "I'm just doing my job, sir," she said, her voice steady. "That's the problem," Mr. Griffin snapped. "I don't think you belong here. We don't need people like you loitering around, making our guests uncomfortable." His words cut through the air like a knife, and the few guests passing by glanced at Danielle, some with pity, others with suspicion. Mr. Griffin wasn't just humiliating her, he was making an example of her, all because she was black. What would you do if you were in Danielle's shoes? Would you reveal your true identity right then and there, or wait for the right moment? Danielle clenched her jaw. She had a mission to complete, and this wasn't the time to lose her temper. But how much more would she have to take? Mr. Griffin's voice boomed across the lobby as he called for security. "Get her out of here." He ordered a pair of security guards to rush in, and without a second thought, they grabbed Danielle by the arm. She could have easily flipped them onto the floor. Her FBI training had prepared her for moments like this, but she restrained herself instead, letting them escort her out. As she walked through the doors, humiliated in front of everyone, a smirk crossed Danielle's face. Little did Mr. Griffin know he had just made the worst mistake of his life. The tables were about to turn, and when they did, the world would know exactly who Danielle was. Hours later, back at FBI headquarters, Danielle debriefed her team on what had happened, the racial profiling, the public humiliation. It wasn't just an incident, it was a potential legal case. The FBI team, led by Special Agent in Charge Francis, was furious. It wasn't the first time Danielle had faced this kind of prejudice, but this time it was personal. "That manager is going to regret his actions," Francis growled. "He doesn't even know who he's messing with." The next day, Danielle returned to the hotel, but this time it wasn't as a janitor. It was as a federal agent with a badge and backup. The moment she walked through the lobby, Mr. Griffin's face paled. "What is this?" he stammered, clearly taken off guard. Do you think Mr. Griffin will apologize, or will his arrogance prevent him from admitting he was wrong? What do you think happens when someone who abuses their authority is finally exposed? Danielle flashed her badge. "Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're under arrest for racial profiling and violating civil rights," she declared. Mr. Griffin's jaw dropped. His bravado evaporated as handcuffs were slapped onto his wrists. He tried to backtrack to explain himself, but the damage was already done. The guests and staff who had witnessed him humiliating Danielle the day before now stood in silence, watching him be led away like a common criminal. The very system of power he had once used to belittle someone based on their appearance had turned against him. Now he was the one being judged by the law. As Mr. Griffin was escorted out of the hotel, his protests fell on deaf ears. Danielle remained professional, though inside, she couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. This was bigger than her. It was about every person who had ever been judged, mistreated, or humiliated just because of their race. The FBI wasn't just taking down a criminal operation, they were sending a message. If you've watched this far, leave a 100 in the comment section because you're the type of person that likes to finish what they started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos. Now, back to the story. In the following days, the media erupted with stories about the incident. The hotel scrambled to save its reputation, firing Mr. Griffin and issuing a public apology, but the damage had already been done. Mr. Griffin faced serious charges, and his trial became a public spectacle. Do you think Mr. Griffin will finally realize the consequences of his actions, or will he continue to deny his wrongdoing even when faced with the truth? In the end, Danielle remained steadfast. She hadn't asked for this fight, but she faced it head-on and, in doing so, turned the tables on those who thought they could humiliate and belittle others without consequence. Justice had been served, but the fight against racial profiling and prejudice continued, and Danielle would be there undercover, ready for the next mission. If you're as engaged as we are by these real-world stories of justice, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful content like this. To stop racial profiling, we need to raise awareness by sharing stories that highlight its harmful impact, educate people through anti-bias training to recognize and challenge their own prejudices, and implement strong anti-discrimination policies with clear procedures for addressing complaints. It's essential to support victims by creating safe reporting channels and offering legal and emotional aid, hold perpetrators accountable through legal consequences to send a strong message against discrimination, and foster open conversations about race and identity to promote understanding and break down biases. What are your thoughts on how we can stop racial profiling? Share your opinions and experiences. Let's keep the conversation going. If this video has helped you connect more with yourself and inspired you on your growth journey, take action and subscribe to the Vidas Inspiración channel to discover more stories that will fill you with motivation and hope. I would love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment telling me how this story has impacted your life or what reflections it has left you with. And if you think this message can inspire someone you know, share it with your friends so they too can find inspiration and purpose in their lives.